Okay, so we're back for what I guess we can call this our third episode, even though we have yet to post anything yet, but because we've been arguing about the names, or not really arguing about the name, but we'll keep it, we'll keep it 4Ever Muor. That's fine by me. I think we'll see where it goes. Let me say this though too. Before we begin, allow me to disclaim, just want to make a disclaimer. So the purpose of this podcast is basically just to share views and perspectives that are not so mainstream. So we are simply speaking for ourselves, and these viewpoints or these experiences are ours and ours alone, and we share them with you just in case you want to connect on that or you want to add to it. So that's it. So before we say anything else, these views are ours and ours alone. We're not speaking for anybody, and we are not here to offend. We just want to have deep conversations, add some perspectives that are beyond just the ones that you typically hear in the media or whatever. Okay. Did anybody want to add to that?
I might be here to offend, but go on.
All right, cool. Name. Let's start with that then. So the word Muor. What does that all encompass? And who are we? When you hear that word, what are we speaking to particularly?
So go ahead. There's multiple things of what we're speaking to, and it took me a while to kind of do the background and understanding of it. I never liked the idea of taking on a name that I won't say oppressor, but I don't know, my adversary gave, right? So any name that was given to me or my people by European powers, I don't want it. I want my name. I want my name.
Yeah, we are who we are.
Yeah, I want my name.
Identity matters. Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time. The Bible says that the world of man is divided up into nations, and that word nations means race. Nation has the etymology of the word natal, and it means your birth, your blood, right? So our nation must be identifiable with legal status. So in the book of the Romans, Paul told everybody two things. He said he was a Hebrew, and he also said he was a Roman, because he was a Roman citizen based on jurisdiction, law. And he took advantage of being a Roman citizen, because they said, hey, they told him when they arrested Paul, they said, hey, be careful, that dude's a Roman citizen.
Okay.
And the centurion, the Greek centurion, where he was, one of the centurions who was, remember, Rome took over Greece, so whoever Rome took over, they utilized the citizens of those lands to incorporate them into their army. So the Greek centurion said to Paul, how did you get this freedom? How did you get Roman citizenship? Because I had to go through hell to get mine.
Yes.
And Paul told him, I was born in Rome. I was born in, so juris solis. So by birth, Paul had Roman citizenship. That same Paul told everybody he was a Hebrew.
So therefore, it shows you that Hebrew was a race.
Hebrew was a race of people. Why?
But as of right now, people think it's a religion, a culture.
No. You're born that way. I mean, it's your blood. So in the same way, even though we are Igbo, we're 100% Igbo. We're not making this up. We wear the red hats, and we have the 364-day calendar. We have all the laws the Igbo people have taught, and we were raised that way. That is very Abrahamic, very Hebraic, and we consider ourselves 100% Igbo. But at the same time, and if you registered, I believe, legally in America, the Igbo tribe, it would have legal status. But right now, you don't want to call what do you want to call yourself? African? Well, that name didn't come from us. We didn't call Africa.
I'll push back on that.
Okay.
I thought that the name Africa came from, I thought it actually had Igbo lineage too, because at one time the land was called Afu, and then Reek. I don't know where I got that information. I'm not sure where I read that or learned that, but at a time the name was actually called, and so I just figured it was Afu meaning like core or stomach. In Igbo, and then Rike meaning like large. So I was like, okay. Maybe,
well, first of all, you can't expect the Igbo population, which is in southeastern Nigeria, of 50 million people now, but back then it wasn't 50 million people,
Yes.
to have named the entire continent of Africa. It's going to be the largest group of people that's going to name the continent, if anybody.
Of course.
And the largest group of
I can see
people
that.
that I would, were probably the
Moors.
the Bantu, maybe even the Moors, because the Moroccan Empire, they were after the Malian Empire. So I would say either the Songhai Kingdom, Kingdom of Ghana, or the Empire of Mali, maybe the Moroccan Empire. They would have been able to name the land because they knew that the land existed.
Yes.
I would doubt that a few million Igbos back then knew how big Africa was.
No, I'm not saying that at all, but I'm guessing that, I was just guessing that maybe the first, not settlers, but the first visitors, like, hey, what's this, what do y'all call this place? Well, we call this place Afuri.
Yeah, but
You know what I'm
who?
saying? So,
It has to be a big tribe.
yeah.
It has to be a big tribe.
I mean, but I do think, now I'm saying I think, I'm not saying this with confidence, but I do think that the name Afre came from one of those tribes, or one of those ethnic groups on that continent.
So you can't just, you have to have
I got
resources. You have to have sources, sites, and the primary sources. The only thing that
for an opinion to matter, you have to have some knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
the only tribe that I've heard of in Africa that is even similar to close to the name Africa are the Afar, and they're not that big.
Yeah. I've heard of that name before too.
Then and you have to go by timing.
Is there any truth about Africa being named after like some
I've heard about
Italian
that.
settler?
Africanus.
Is that true? Or is that...
I think that the Greek, as far as the timing, the goddess Africa was before that Roman historian Africanus. So I believe he took his name from that Roman goddess. He got that name from her. It's a Roman goddess, Africa.
Okay.
It's a Roman goddess.
Yeah.
And pretty old.
Yes.
So, I shouldn't say pretty. It's young in terms of all the different names. So you have Timeri. It's older than the name Africa, and the land was called Timeri.
Is that right?
Yeah. You have Al-Kebulan. That's older than the word Africa, and that was called that as well. Even in the 1200s, the Moors, or people of Morocco, called it Al-Maghrib. Called it Al-Maghrib. And some of them in the eastern part of Africa who spoke a form of a Semitic language, a form of Arabic, called it Sudan. They called the whole place Sudan.
Wow, that's real.
So you can call me any of those names. Don't call me Africanus or African or African American, because I'm not. That's a Roman goddess.
Even as today, like people from the continent don't say they're African. They say they're
correct.
I'm Sudan.
Correct.
I'm Sudanese. I'm Igbo. I'm Yoruba.
I don't even like being called Nigerian. That name was made up by a British white woman.
Yeah.
What was the name of the place that you know what?
Biafra.
No, that was a different name. We had I forget the name.
We can always come back to it, man.
Yeah, we can come back to it.
But I mean,
but on the note of Moor. So
So
what does
Moor.
that
Go back
mean?
to Moor.
So let's go back to Moor.
So
Let's get
Moor.
back to Moor. I'm sorry, my bad.
Moor is the name that, as old as you can get, legally, all of our adversaries called us.
Okay.
Now, I accept that because there are so many tribes in Africa that use that name or derivation of that word, Mu, Mo, Moe in Sudan, and it all means the same thing.
Yes.
They all mean spirit. Even in Congo, in Congo they say Mulingo.
Yeah.
That MU is prominent
it's
in
pretty
multiple
synonymous,
tribes in Africa that shouldn't have any. Because for the people out there who think that they say people make these silly statements like them Africans are this. Look, Africa is huge.
Yes.
The place we call Africa is massive, and I have nothing in common with that tribe over there in Uganda.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
Even less in common. I would say
With the Ethiopian tribe.
I mean,
It's high diversity though. There's
genotypically,
yeah.
phenotypically, we are very different.
As a matter of fact, it's the most diversity, right, of all people.
Or the most diverse in the world.
Yeah.
Genetically diverse.
Yeah.
So you have
Shoot, we can have white people.
some,
Yeah.
you can have for sure.
I mean, as you go, isn't it said that as you go away from the equator, as you get more polar, you know, then
Well, yeah,
you start getting less brown.
Like,
We're all shades of brown.
I mean, like only like they've always said Louis Farrakhan was saying it, you know, that we have dominant genes.
Yes.
And like they
Yes.
have recessive genes.
Yes.
You cannot get the dominant from the recessive, but you can get the recessive from the dominant.
Yes.
So I mean, that's what I mean as far as like genotypic.
Why is-
yes.
Hey, let me think about that rapper. What's his name? We're gonna get back to more, but there was a rapper. I think.
Razkaz.
No, YZ. YZ. Hey, shout out to YZ. I think his name was YZ. Yeah. Shout out to YZ from like the late '80s, early '90s, who said there's not only that there is. What did he say? There's only white from black, not black from white. That was a pretty bold.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and in fact, shout out to all those rappers who rapped in the late '80s, early '90s, who rapped about like real stuff before rap became more of like just
Better.
better. No.
No.
Before rap turned into like coochie and money, man. Because real talk
Miss
back
those
then.
days.
No, man. Hey, those were good days, man. Because real talk back then. We were talking, I mean, our artists were talking about things in our community and ways for us to uplift each other and to build each other. And some way, somehow, the narrative shifted.
Well, they still exist now, but they're just not pushed.
Yeah,
They're not promoted.
and then when they talk about, when people talk about anti this or anti that or anti this, I'm like, guys, there are corporate, we need to start a record label. Because there are corporate executives that they're actually pushing out messages to young, impressionable, cultural, you know.
Ice Cube said that the same guys who push those narratives, who
Yes.
push those lyrics out and like that, who create those records,
Yes.
also own private jail systems, private prisons.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So they're incentivizing us. Well, who said it best? Dame Dash. They're capitalizing off of our dysfunction.
Yes.
But then again, Dame Dash, he messes with white girls.
I mean, but whatever the case is, though, man, I mean, mess with who you want to mess with, though. But it's just knowing what you know. That's
Sure.
it. So sometimes I'm like, and I know the power of music. Music's a very powerful thing, and we have to bring our music. We have to bring that music back. So shout out to all you rappers and artists, and you know, in the American black culture. You know, who made, I'm sorry, I shouldn't put up those quotes, in black culture, in American black culture, who were rapping about like real things. We heard you. In fact, really, much of the reason why we are who we are is because of the music you guys make. So thank you for making that real music, that authentic, you know, uplifting and meaningful, purposeful music.
Now let's
So
be
why is
real
it-
though. There's a lot of artists that you were jamming. A lot of artists that you were down for.
Yeah.
I was speaking some debauchery too.
Yeah, that's true. That's
So
true.
like old folks always say, we were rapping about better shit.
Yeah.
Y'all rap about killing each other too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all got rich off of it and then change the narrative.
Then you change the narrative.
Like, I mean, so
Yeah.
I mean, hey, you know, like you got guys, old heads who talking about like we did this, we did that. You know what I'm saying? Blah blah. But I mean, you made your money off from selling drugs, and I get it. Man, like you want to get into that a little bit. I mean, that's off topic, of course. But
Well,
man,
I'll bring it back.
like get into that about how like
half the businesses out. No, I shouldn't say half. Some of the businesses out here in
Sure,
Houston.
sure.
There are some prominent businesses in Houston. I'm not going to say any names, but there's some prominent businesses out in Houston who have checkered past.
Yeah, of course, yeah, you know.
And now they're prominent businesses,
100%.
and they get to fly around Houston on private helicopters.
Absolutely.
So that's so. Anyway, but to the word more.
Yeah,
So
back to more.
back to the word
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
So when we say the word more, is that okay? I mean, so
Look, you have to have. We live in America, and the people there. The only argument I've ever heard about the word "more" is, well, no, I'm black, I'm African American.
I've heard that too.
And the issue you're gonna have with that is everybody on the planet are playing by the same rules, and those rules are: what is your status in law? You can be all emotional you want about I'm black, I'm African American, I'm this. those things have no status in law.
Yes.
And when it's time to attack you, when the enemy comes to attack you, you're going to lose. So I understand that, and without getting into too much detail, I used to listen to I have a whole bunch of teachers that I trust, and they're good men. And I was first taught about nationality and the importance of identifying your nationality.
Yes.
And I thought they were crazy.
Yes.
And I understand. Made it very simple. You look up the word "Moor" in the dictionary. Look it up. It says Black African. That's what it says.
Mm-hmm.
So then I remember, I speak Spanish, and I lived in Spain for Spanish countries. And in the 80s, the Spanish were saying, ¿de qué nacionalidad es este tipo? Es un moro. They called us Moors in Spain in the 80s.
Yeah.
So you even there was a movie that Martin Lawrence was in, where every time the man referred to Martin Lawrence, they called him a Moor.
Mm-hmm.
So why am I saying that? Well, these people won the war. They won the war. We didn't win.
Yes. Yeah.
And they are using the laws from our indigenous culture. And when we go against it, they say, wait a minute, this is your culture and your laws, and you're not honoring it. The rest of the world looks at us like we're crazy.
Yeah.
So this idiot's calling himself black.
Yeah.
This idiot's calling himself African American. What is that? Is there an Africa America somewhere? Is there African America?
Is black a language that people speak?
But we have common.
Good point.
Because many of the so-called black people in America are natives. That's a big thing nobody talks about.
Yes.
Many are natives. Yeah. Every black person here did not come from Africa. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
And the ones here, now, here's what's funny. I've done work when it comes to nationalizing in America.
Mm.
Do you know the American government recognizes indigenous tribes?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I've heard that before. Yeah.
Black indigenous tribes.
Is that right?
Oh, yes.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And they know. So when you go to the American government and say, listen, I am nationalizing right now. I am a Choctaw Native American. And you look like this, black as night. The Yamasee. You ever heard of the Yamasee War of 1715?
I wish I had. Man.
Go look that up. Yeah. The Yamasee partnered with the Moors to slaughter the colonists, the white colonists in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. This is documented. And I didn't say it. The United States Congress said the Yamasee were Negroes. Mm-hmm. I didn't say it.
Yes.
So all these natives, you have Choctaw, Yamasee, who basically, Yamasee encompass multiple tribes in America, including the Cherokee, including the Seminole. The Yamasee became the Seminole, right? These were all native black people.
If the Yamasee became the Seminole, then Florida State's going to need to change that. They're going to need to change that logo.
Just look up $5 Indian.
Yeah.
Just look that up.
I've heard of that though.
Just look it up. Just look it up. Do your own research.
He's actually 25% Choctaw. It's weird.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, with all that said, there are indigenous people in the land called Africa. Mm-hmm. I don't like the name Africa because we didn't give them that name.
Okay.
I can say Al Maghrib because I'm certain that was called Al Maghrib
By the
Al Kebulan and the actually Tamari I know was called Tamari too. That's old. It's very old. But for words that people can understand, it was absolutely called Al Maghrib. We know that. And even as early as the 1800s, major part of it was called Sudan. Period. Okay. Don't call it Africa. So, the winners of the war.
So, are you saying this all became before Kemet? Came before, like
No. So Kemet wasn't Africa. Kemet was just that land of Cush and Egypt. Mm-hmm. That was Kemet.
But that's in Africa.
Yes, but you're talking about the whole continent versus in.
Gotcha.
If you said Kemet, I'm not going to argue with you.
Oh no, I thought they at one time did call the whole continent.
No. The whole continent was not called Kemet.
Oh, cool.
So
now
it's a region.
A region, certainly. So there were the people over there had multiple names, whatever. But one name, one word that was common, and I keep hearing it, is that MU. And our oppressor, not oppressor, I won't say oppressor, but the people who won the war. Our adversaries.
There is nothing wrong with saying that too. Like right now, and who knows who will be watching this when, but right now there's in Florida, they're trying to
Advertise that.
Not advertise.
Education system.
yeah, they're trying to morph the education to where slavery, they're trying to change the dialogue, to change the narrative there, and I'm like, guys, there's no harm in just saying you won the war. You know what I'm saying? So let's not disrespect history by telling lies. Okay, let's just be true. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't cut you off, man. So for the people who won the war, they called us Moors.
So they called us Moors, but they got that name from us.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, they got that name from us, and when they when they took that name,
Yes.
they just it morphed into the legal status of anybody that had this kind of skin.
Yes.
So, and you can look that up yourself. Anybody who has a dictionary, go look up Moor or Black or Moor, and it says in any Black African. That's what it says. But the first time I started using that word, I say Moor, and people would say, "Oh, you mean Arabs? Oh, the Moors are Arabs." No, they weren't.
Yes.
They were Senegambian. The word Moor and Moro in Spain was associated with Senegambian. One of the most famous Moors during the wars of the Moors and the Romans. His name was. He was 75% Senegalese, and he got really upset. What is his name?
You can look it up, but like.
we can always come back to these things.
Yeah, you can come back to it.
I'll let you go. But the only reason I bring this thing up is because I want to make sure that, as we're using this more identity, that we're on the same page on that. And for the people that we are concerned about in the culture or in the diaspora or anywhere in the world, whatever shade of brown they are.
Well, like it's kind of like one of those things where you want to be able to differentiate yourself from any alliances or any groups that may be using that term for
Nefarious reasons?
well, not nefarious, but just like a skewed version of our people are desperately looking for a particular nationality or an alignment to align themselves with.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure that, like, when you say that we're Moors, we're meaning it by the literal sense, not that we're a part of some Moorish community here in the U.S.
Yes.
that really is just saying they're Moors because
Yes.
they're, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, because they don't know that you could be a Moor and a Hebrew. They don't know that you could be a Moor and a Hebrew Israelite, or a Moor and a Nebo person.
Yes.
They don't understand that because they see Moor as an affiliation, a political affiliation.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like,
But it's much more. It's not even,
It's much more than that.
It's a whole lot more.
just like I would
A whole
say
lot
most of
more.
us here are conservative. But if you say conservative, usually they think that it's a white person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, like, or Republican.
Yeah.
I'm not a Republican. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely conservative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Well said.
yeah.
Good
So,
analogy.
so if I say I'm a conservative, then I'm making sure that everybody knows I don't align with Republicans. I don't align with them.
Yeah.
I don't align with Democrats.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think they're all crazy.
Yeah.
You know? But I mean, I'm definitely conservative. That's for goddamn sure. I'm not a liberal.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
You know, so.
And in recent news, so on the note of Moor, so we'll come back to that because that is in our name, 4Ever Muor. But also, so on the note of Moor and Africa, there was I think a UFC fighter recently who
That's hilarious.
who made waves or made a lot of a lot of waves with regard to being a real African. So being the first real African champ. Now, as I understand it, there have since been African champs who've responded to that.
Like,
So
here's what I want to say about that. I think it's hilarious that American culture is so enthralled with where you live at a particular time or where you were born. I think it's hilarious because it's like, honestly, is there any American on the planet that thinks that if you have a zebra who was born in Africa,
I know where you're going with this.
and then you bring the zebra to an American zoo, and that zebra has a baby, is that baby now a fucking American?
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
so now you have an American zebra. Okay, so then that baby has to have an American diet. You have to give the baby an American anatomy because obviously he's American now.
You
So
said an American anatomy?
so like he becomes an American. Like,
Oh,
so,
okay.
so,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
it's a joke.
That's funny.
So like, okay, well then like get the baby McDonald's.
They carried
You know
that.
what I'm saying?
It's like carrying Simba like up in the air in Houston and being like,
Yeah, now he's an
we
American.
now have a Texan lion, right?
Yeah. Like I think it was what's the name one
Good.
time was
Good.
on a podcast. It was what's the guy's name? He's a comedian. Paul Mooney.
Paul Mooney. I
He was
like
like-
Paul
he
Mooney.
was on a
Shout out to Paul Mooney too. He
He was on a I think he's dead, right?
Oh, he did pass away.
He
Yeah,
died.
you're right.
Yeah,
Paul.
like he was on a podcast. So shout out to him anyway. Shout out to his family.
Yeah.
So he was on a podcast, and he was trying to get the white guys on the podcast to understand none of us are American.
Yes.
We're all U.S. citizens. Like,
Yeah.
you guys crazy?
Yeah.
And like he's like, where's a U.S. citizen? I'm not an American. I'm a stolen African.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Only Paul Mooney.
that's what he was saying. But then they thought he was crazy. But you were born here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
He's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden when you're born is what you are? Are you nuts? Like
We were born here.
yeah, exactly.
Does that mean I'm not Igbo?
Yeah, exactly. So it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So for that guy to say that I'm the only African champ, whatever he said he was, he's a joke. Talking about like you live in Africa. So? So what?
I like what and I like what in fact Nana expand on it the best, but he has since in clips that I have seen of him, and I don't know his name, so no disrespect to him or anyone around him, but in clips I've seen of him as since, he has kind of walked it back a little bit.
Has he?
He's walked it back a little bit. Yeah, he's walked it back a little bit. I mean, he
clarified what he meant.
yeah, he clarified what he
I live in Africa, so I am an African.
That's what he said. Yeah, that's what he said.
That's not clarifying.
I think he said. I
His
think
name is Duplessis. Trucus Duplessis.
Uh,
He's even got an African. No, he's got a Dutch name. There you go. So stupid. Dricus Duplessis.
Yeah.
Speaks Afrikaans or Dutch.
yeah,
He
guys.
says, I'm the African champ. You are an idiot.
Yeah.
He is an idiot. You'll never get him to say anything else.
Yeah.
He's an idiot at worst, uneducated at best.
Okay.
You come to a land, your forefathers come to a land. If my forefathers did something, I would recognize it. Recognize it. Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
You know exactly the history of the South Africa, of the Boers in South Africa.
Yeah.
Apartheid, it was just like
You're still suffering that. There are people in South Africa that can't stand you guys to this day because you stole land.
Yeah.
recent.
Now, it was recent. We're not talking about like 2,000 years ago. It just happened, whatever. Less than what?
That's some dirt.
No, they came to South Africa 600 years ago, 700 years ago. So you stole, we know the story of Shaka Zulu. We know that whole story.
When apartheid just ended, like
Yeah, when I talk about apartheid, when they first came. So you come there, and the so-called Africans should take their responsibility in this. They fall for the okie doke.
Yes.
You get fooled
Yes.
by your adversary. No problem. They fooled you,
Yeah.
and then they come into your country, and everybody will say, "Well, we made the country nice." No, you made it for you.
Yes.
And then,
Nice.
you convince the native people that, hey, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how you're supposed to eat. You got to eat 3 times a day. You got to eat breakfast. You got to drink tea. So now native people say, "So we lost the war. I guess these people are right.
Yes.
Got to do it like that."
Yeah.
So you set it up where that you force them to live in a certain way, or force them to believe a certain way of life is correct. Then you take away the resources that they need to live that way.
Yes.
You have those resources, and then you create your own world in South Africa.
Yes.
You create wherever they're from, Amsterdam or Deutschland, whatever, South Africa, in South Africa.
Yes.
Then you call yourself African. What are you trying to insinuate?
Man, when you put it that way, golly, bro.
So, and then you call yourself African because you live there, when you made it non-conducive for the natives to live there.
Yes.
You go to Nigeria, for example, and the British actively pursued a narrative and a campaign to make the tribes within Nigeria hate each other.
Yes.
So even to this day, northern Nigerians say things about Igbos, Igbos say things about Yorubas, Yorubas say things about Igbos that didn't exist before the British came.
Yeah.
King Jaja of Opobo was an Igbo man who was a slave and worked with the Niger Delta people to actually take the inheritance of the master what is it called? of the Apobo area.
Okay.
Yes, he was an Igbo man,
Okay.
slave, rose up in the ranks within within his master's compound. His master said, "Hey, my sons are gone or dead or idiots,
Yes.
and I'm turning over the inheritance to you."
Okay. And,
King Jaja now took that inheritance. King Jaja was exporting palm oil, peanuts, and peanut oil in the 1400s.
wow.
No British man helped him do this.
Yes.
He did it. Now, how did he do it? Well, he kept the British on the water. They couldn't even come inland in Nigeria because King Jaja could go to the north and speak Hausa
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, these white guys are coming here for this, for this. They're going to give you this price for these peanuts. I'm going to give you this for these peanuts.
Yes.
Only sell to me." Those Hausa people said, "What?"
Deal.
They made a deal.
Yeah.
And if you know Hausa people today, what they say they do.
Yeah.
They say it, they do it, contract be damned, they're going to do it.
Yes.
And these people were working with King Jaja. Why? Because he could speak the language.
Yeah.
King Jaja could speak Igbo, he could speak Kalabari, he could speak Yoruba.
Yeah.
And he worked with intertribal in Nigeria to make money the way we're supposed to be living now.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So the British got so angry, they went to the Queen and said he's inhibiting international international trade.
Yes.
The British, the Queen of England at the time said, "Hey, we want to invite you to have a conversation about international trade." They invited him to England and arrested him on the spot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sold him into slavery to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Guess what? He caused so many uprisings in the Bahamas, they sent him back to Nigeria. I hear he died in Ivory Coast before he arrived in Nigeria.
Yeah.
This was a king.
Yeah.
This was a king. How did he become king? Because of trade.
Yeah.
So the British came there and caused havoc with the same thing that the Europeans, the Romans did in South Africa.
Yeah.
You cause havoc. You destroy the land. You cause havoc between the people.
Yeah.
Then you create your own paradise and say, "I'm an African and you're not." You make it so I can't live there.
Yeah.
And then take over the moniker Big African.
Yeah.
The man, Drickus Diplas, he's an idiot.
Yeah.
He's an idiot, and nobody wants to say it. He's an idiot. Just on that simple narrative.
Yeah.
Dude, you won the war, act accordingly. Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
Hey, well shit, I'm African. We beat y'all's ass. So
Yeah.
we're here now.
You know what I'm saying?
And I'm African.
As it
You
should
better
be.
not say it like that, just that.
Be real with it.
But to give the impression that because you made it so we can't live in Africa, and we can. You get enough money, we move back. And that's it. What did I say before we started? You think we don't want to live there?
Yeah.
Are you mental?
Yeah.
Mangoes is damn big.
Yeah.
I bought an organic mango the other day in the store. It tastes like water.
Yeah.
And we're talking about we don't want to live in Africa, man.
Yeah.
What does the Bible say? The work of man's hand is all for his mouth.
The work of man's hand.
All of the work of man's hand is for his mouth. We do everything to eat.
Yes.
So I can't even eat in America.
Yeah.
The food's not good.
Yeah.
It's not even real now.
Yeah.
It's all poison.
They're talking about they're going to start making fake chicken. So they'll
No, start. They're doing it. They're doing it.
Yeah.
They're selling
They got chickens that
3D printed trick chicken
they
in
make
restaurants.
They make them in a tube.
What's happening?
Dude, and we're really having this conversation. Come on, guys.
Wow.
These Romans cause chaos everywhere they go. And I'm not being racist. Y'all do. Good job.
Yeah.
You're doing it. It's unbelievable. You come in there, you call all these cows, and you look back and go, "What's wrong with you, crazy son of a bitch?"
Yeah.
Calm down. You gotta be civilized.
So
Yeah, I love it.
Here's what we can discuss on this podcast. We can discuss what Africans need to do, what Moors need to do, in order to start becoming a little racist ourselves and thinking about
So
us.
I do want to say, I forgot to finish up. So there were the legal status of the black Africans here were Moors.
Mm-hmm.
The Americans, because they look like us, the Native Americans, they look like us, and we do have some common ancestors.
Yes.
Remember, I talked about this before. Mensa Abubakar II came here with, they say 2,000 ships. If they're crazy, 200 ships.
Okay.
And he built schools in the Americas.
Yeah.
These people knew each other. They intermarried. They talk about the King Abubakar in Brazil and Mexico and all South America. This man left the kingdom of Mali to his brother, who ended up being Mensa Musa's grandfather, and came to the Americas. This is
The
documented.
point you're making is that
So they were called Moors. The only reason they called the Native Americans and here Moors, because even Christopher Columbus, when he came here in his own
right, he said there's Moors
journal,
here.
in his own journal,
Yeah.
he wrote back to the king of Portugal and said, we came here and we found Moros trading with the native Moros in gold tipped spears.
Yeah.
He wrote that. I didn't write it.
Yeah.
So if an indigenous American says, I'm not a Moor, I'm an indigenous American, that has legal status too.
Yeah.
Now, the paperwork needed to nationalize with that legal status in America is difficult because they make you prove it. You can prove it, but you gotta have the time to do it.
Yeah.
It's very easy to nationalize as a Moor in America because they know you're a Moor.
Yes.
It's in their law book.
Yeah.
They know what a Moor is.
Yeah.
So we live in the world where, as the Most High God said, the world of man is divided up into nations. You must have a nation. You call yourself black, that's not a nation. You call yourself African American, it is not a nation. You can call yourself indigenous, no problem. When we call ourselves Moor, it's because we are telling everybody we have a nationality. Within a nationality, guess what you have? You have tribes.
Yes.
We have Americans, right? Well, I'm Texan. He's New York. He's from New York.
Yeah.
He's from California.
Yeah.
Different tribes.
Yeah.
But we're the same people.
Yeah.
So that's the reason behind the word Moor, and the spiritual meaning of the word, and those two letters, the etymology of those two letters in Africa, M-U, and we all know in Africa, all we call it Semitic languages, African languages, have those two-letter abjads that mean a whole lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The two letters or two, they have two or three. Hebrew have three, and most African languages have two. The two letters that are very important in Africa are M-U.
Yeah.
It means spirit. Go to Sudan, More. They have a land to this day in Sudan called More. There's a land today.
Yeah.
Still the basis means spirit.
Yeah.
Mulingo in Congo, spirit. Moneke, our name, spirit.
Yeah.
So that's why we say that we say the word Moor, gives our national identity. But then within that word Moor, we spell it with the way we spell our last name, which gives our tribal identity.
Yeah.
That's the perfect thing.
Who designed the periodic table?
The periodic table?
Yeah.
Who designed it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard that, but I don't know.
I think
Weird question.
Well, you said two letters. So
Okay.
MU. So I think
What is
it's
MU?
Spirit.
But what does that mean in the periodic
I don't
table?
think there's MU on the periodic
I
table.
don't think there's any. I'm not sure that there is.
Well,
That's
I mean,
right.
like-
That's right, because we're original.
Yeah, but like, I want to
Right.
make a statement of that, like,
Hold on, man. Before you, as you make that statement too, we're not making this podcast to be racist. We're making this podcast to build.
Yeah, we
to
are.
have
You ain't gotta talk to the camera, you talk to us. Talk to them.
Okay. You're gonna be racist.
Yeah, but all racist means is that you care about yourself first.
By
Is
the
that what it
way,
means?
by
I
the
thought
way,
race-
by the way,
yeah.
I forgot.
I don't know if I turned the word racist until today.
The
Mikey over here making
what is it called? The Umayyad general, who was part of the last bastion that fought the Romans in Spain. The Moors, when the Moors in Spain had their wars, his name was Al Mansur. That was his name.
Sounds like a powerful name.
But here's what's funny.
Scary.
Here's what's funny. To prove that just because you call yourself a Moor doesn't mean you can't be a Hebrew Israelite.
Can you repeat that one more time? Because I just zoned out.
His name is Al Mansur. It means the great vanquisher.
This is the
Lord.
general of what?
He was the final general at this time. The Moors were not called the Umayyad. So you had the Umayyad, then you had I forget the name of it. You had three caliphates that basically controlled Africa.
Okay. Wow.
And these caliphates controlled Africa from Damascus. So at this time, there was no Middle East. Oh no, the Middle East was part of Africa. It was all part of one. And the caliphate,
I've heard of this before.
the caliphate was in Damascus.
Damascus is where? Where is
Syria now.
Okay. All right.
So the Moors came from the Middle East, so-called Middle East, and North Africa, the land of Egypt, etc. And they invaded Spain,
Yes.
and they ruled Spain for 1,000 years, 700,000 years.
By the way, southern, as I've heard, but Southern Europe. That's much the reason why a lot of Southern Europe has dark hair.
Well, and maybe,
yeah, that's what I heard.
that may be the case.
Okay,
But,
go ahead.
so they had different caliphates. They had the Umayyad Caliphate, and there were two more afterwards. And as the caliphates were losing ground, the home base started moving west, right, to all the way to the Senegambia region. Excuse me, the Senegambia region. So the Romans would gain ground, the Moors would get backup from Africa. Then they would gain ground. Then the Moors would gain ground again, partnering with the Visigoths and all the other now Roman Empire that fought back on the Moors.
Now you're saying between Caliphates and Visigoths,
Visigoths are the Romans. They're the north. I'm saying the Romans were slowly gathering people to support their fight against the Moors.
Okay.
And the Visigoths weren't Roman until the Romans incorporated them.
Recruited them, okay.
Yeah, recruited them into their fight. The Visigoths are basically like Germans.
Okay.
The Franks, the Visigoths, these were all part of the people that joined the Roman Empire to fight the Moors and kick them out.
Yeah.
And the final battle, where the Moors had their last push, was led by Al-Mansur. Al-Mansur, his real name was Yusuf bin Yaqub. That was his name.
Yaqub.
Yusuf bin Yaqub. That sounds very Hebrew. So this man was, we don't know if he was Muslim, but most likely he was a Jew. And they said, you can look him up, he was 70, his dad was mixed and his mom was Senegalese. So he was 75% Senegalese. He's a black dude. And he was the general. He came in there and wrecked shop in Spain. Now, they have depictions of all these Moors in Spain. They all have afros and black skin. When you talk to the Spanish in Spain, I played in Spain. Were the Moors Arabs? No. Estaba como ti, Gabriel. So no, they weren't. They had different shades, of course. But the majority of the Moors there that ran Spain were as dark as night. They were black people with nappy hair.
And the point you're making is that some of them were Moors and Hebrews.
Of course. Many were Muslims.
Yeah.
In fact, the Spanish had names for the different.
So wait, so Moor.
It was just a race.
It
was just a race.
Yeah. And Hebrew
and the reason why I'm saying that we use it for this name of this show is because, and hopefully it inspires people. You must have status in this country. You must. You can fight all that emotional stuff you want, right? And me talking about using the word Moor is not emotional. It's based on history and genetics and research.
Yes.
And law. I don't want my enemy to be able. What they'll do is they'll tell you, "Oh, that's pseudo. That's Hotep." But believe me, your adversary is hoping you never figure that out.
Yes.
Because once you nationalize, then what comes with nationality is inheritance. You have an inheritance. But when you are calling yourself a ghost figure, I'm black, you're telling everybody you don't exist. Then you want an inheritance? They just look at you and go, some guy in a suit and tie with white skin tells you, oh, well, you know that.
And only the guys in the courthouse know that. You say you're black, no rights.
Look, I am telling you, I won't go into details because I don't want any call. I'm not trying to call them in trouble. But if people want the ability to be able to defend themselves in this North America where the Romans are doing business, you better understand your nationality. You better, because I have done this. And when I first did it, I was laughed at, but the judge dismissed it. He knew exactly what I was saying. Didn't laugh, didn't say a word, said, get him out of here. So whatever you guys want, you can say whatever you want. I know the first time I was told about nationalizing and when I used that word, then I noticed over and over again, these people would laugh at you, hoping you wouldn't believe it, because they knew what it meant if you did believe it, if you did use it. So they'd laugh and I would just stare at them. Straight face. And as they're done laughing, they would go, stamp. Here you go, get out of here. I said, thank you. I'm going.
Usually when people laugh at your argument, it's more like it's more to deflect it.
That's what they do. They're trying to discredit you.
They're trying to discredit
they want to discourage you from the truth.
It's true.
Look, our people worldwide have lost their inheritance, right? You can gain it back if you follow the laws of the Most High God. And these laws of the Most High God are universal. They're eternal maxims that every nation on earth knows. They're playing the rules and we are not. And then we complain, we get emotional. We say, man, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. And they're like, yeah. And then we have people who, Roman counterparts that say, yes, you're right. Yes, black power. And they boost that emotion.
Yes.
But that emotion is the enemy of logic. And it's the enemy of research and the enemy of knowledge.
Yes.
If you know, you won't believe.
Facts are facts.
If you know, you won't believe. So that's it. So that's why we say the word mortal. People shouldn't take it as if you say I'm not a Moor, I'm indigenous. Yeah, you're right. It's true. I mean, you've done the paperwork.
Yes.
Absolutely. I know indigenous Americans that look just like you and me, and they are killing it. You can't call them and bother them at all.
Yes.
And they don't go out preaching to everybody, do this. They say, man, look, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But they're living, and they're getting their inheritance. But meanwhile, everybody else in there screaming black, black, black. You ain't getting. You're losing your inheritance. You're giving your inheritance to somebody else, and your enemy enjoys those benefits.
I bet they do.
Yeah.
So can you remember your point though? You were.
I remember, but we're kind of off the deep beaten path. I mean, like the point I was making was that like it's interesting that like they say black folks got soul, so-called black folks got soul, and it just so happens that Moor happens to have the meaning, the etymology of the word spirit inside it. I thought it was kind of an interesting connection to make that I mean, like that's probably a part of scripture as to saying as to there's no place for who was it? No place for in heaven again? Like there's no place for he made no place for the fallen.
The Nephilim?
Is that what it is?
Yeah. They didn't come from heaven, so there's no place for them in heaven.
Yeah, and then spirit means breath and all that stuff. So I thought it was interesting about how
Ruach.
Ruach, correct. I thought it was interesting about how like you get black folks that have soul and also Moor just happens to mean spirit inside it. So I thought that was interesting. But other than that, I do want to say that like it's kind of like, okay, for example, we're Igbos. Our parents bore us here and raised us here, and we have our last name and we know it. I remember like there's a big thing that goes on within the so-called black community of Africans versus African Americans.
Yeah.
That happens a lot, and like a lot of times you have foolish Africans that will be calling African Americans lazy and this and that,
Yes.
and then you have foolish African Americans that will be saying that, oh, all y'all hate us and everything like that. And really what's happening is this: the divide is a cultural divide based off of tribes that I see that.
It's a tribal war.
Like, it's tribal war,
It's a tribal war.
I would say the Africans have a long way to go in reference to understanding the concepts behind the fact that you see a brother over here in America and he's alive. That's already incredible.
Sure, absolutely.
That's powerful.
If you take
That's
any culture of people, give them persecution and slavery for 150 plus
take
years.
their culture.
Take their culture, take their religion.
Yeah.
But by the time they come out of slavery, now you've painted all of the deities white and everybody's white. Angels are all white.
Psychological war.
And then on top of that, you make it so that
That's real,
if you
man.
don't have a job and you can't feed your family, you're now a prisoner. So now you keep slavery going via mass incarceration, and you're alive, bro. And then I come over here as an African with my last name, with my culture,
with your
and have the
background.
nerve to call you lazy. Am I nuts?
No,
That's powerful,
So we have to
man.
have a really discussion about that.
That's strong,
like,
bro.
and then I like we can see both. We have dual knowledge of the situation because we were born and raised here with our culture. So we see brothers all the time who don't know any better, but we get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing though. That's why I cannot wait to where like all of us have financial literacy, because when we get money, you ain't gonna stop us. It's gonna be bad.
No doubt.
Things will be better. Yeah.
It's gonna be bad for certain people on this planet.
But I do want to expand on what you said. You're correct.
That's powerful.
As far as the people who, in I guess it's called conscious community.
Yeah.
Africans have a long way to go. The indigenous Americans, so-called black people here, they have been studying this history because you took their culture.
Yeah.
So because you took their culture, people like Dr. Ben Yusuf, who he's an African, but he's
I know that. I think
yeah,
I saw some of his rap.
but he lives here. I think he was educated in Paris. You have a lot of historian, native, so-called black people from America who have done amazing things in terms of research.
Dr. Lee Muhammad.
Dr. Lee Muhammad, my goodness, the research these guys have put out and discovered.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that 90% of the so-called black people in America have never heard of it, never seen it.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know the biggest pyramid in the world is in South America. Yeah. It's here. The oldest DNA that they found, I believe, is in either Brazil or South Carolina. Right? The whole Africans said, dude, these guys have come up with so much. So,
But then again, don't you also have I don't know, research or belief.
No, I don't do the belief.
No, wait. That at a certain point in time, weren't all the continents together? So if something is in South,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, so something was in South Carolina, wasn't it in Africa?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good argument. It's all the same.
Yeah.
And that's why the other argument about the oldest DNA is in Cameroon. You put those two continents together, they're pretty close. Cameroon and South America, South Carolina are pretty close.
Yeah.
So there's genetics are.
But the point you were making was that, like, in reference to you wanted to make a point about what I just said about.
Yeah, no, the so-called the Native Americans here have done incredible work in terms of connecting the dots when it comes to history. Mm-hmm. And Africans in Nigeria, please, you tell Africans in Nigeria, oh, do you know that Africans there was interaction between so-called Black Africans and so-called Black Native Americans before Columbus got there? They say, what are you talking? They say you're crazy, but it's true.
You know who knows the most about the Nigerians? It's the village people. Like the
villagers know. You're right. The uneducated Nigerians know more than the educated Nigerians about history.
I mean, I'm in education, so I know that the whole purpose of much of education is designed just to indoctrinate.
Yeah. So the similarities are incredible.
Yes.
The interactions between now I'll say Moors and Aboriginals here in America were ancient. This is old.
Yeah.
Before any Roman was around, these people were interacting.
Yes. And
interacting so much so now we have common ancestors.
Yes.
So the admixture is so deep you can't even tell the difference between us anymore.
Yes.
So especially, I mean, look, you have tribes in North America that are in Mali. Where did they get the Cherokee tribe in Mali?
Yeah.
The accident, or did they go over to Mali?
No.
So look, guys, the relationship is old. Don't let, and we shouldn't start to use a name to try to separate people.
Yeah, that's why I brought this up, because I want, as we talk about more, even beyond this, but as we talk about not only our perspectives but how we identify and as we bring on guests or have other people in these chairs, we add perspective so that way we can build more bridges. That's really what we're doing.
Yeah, the reason why
and to build, you're right,
yeah.
to build communities too.
Yeah.
To build people and communities, but it is more so to. I wanted to talk about more today on this episode because it is to gain more perspective.
The reason why I brought it up is because, like, there's some guys who are pretty prominent in the conscious community.
Yes.
Who, as soon as they hear more, they don't have a problem with it.
Yes.
But they'll just be like, oh, okay, well that's them.
Yeah.
Like, and the same thing that will happen if a brother who's a Moor who might hear of a Hebrew Israelite. Oh, that's them.
Yeah, and we need to get away from that.
And then, well, I mean, like, there's
I shouldn't say it that way.
there's nothing wrong with having a tribe.
We're calling ourselves Moors for the legal benefits of it.
Yeah.
We consider ourselves Hebrews.
Yes, exactly.
So what are you gonna tell me? I'm no longer Igbo because
that's the thing. Try to go tell Tazaria or what's his name or Captain Hashar. You're a Moor, but you know what's funny? They might actually agree.
They may.
Like Hashar.
I don't think.
And let's be careful before we name drop too. So like.
Oh yeah. No. We're not. I'm not.
Why?
I'm not saying name drop like in a.
No. Yeah. I'm not like these brothers are kings. Yeah. I'm not like.
Barack.
Yeah.
Obama.
I didn't mean that you were saying that you were name dropping in that way.
No. I understand. Like, I mean, like
Oprah.
Right.
You guys are silly. More. Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle. The spirit.
All right, that's it, man. We know now there's more to the story, so we'll stop on that note. It's getting late.
Hey, homie.
That ain't a bad name.
Yeah.
There's more to the story.
Yeah, there's more to the story. All right. Thank you for tuning in.
By the way, the reason I'm wearing a mask is because I'm
Nobody
sick.
cares.
They absolutely care. Like, why is this one not talking about you? I'm sick, right? I'm trying to be responsible.
All right, cool.